You know what that sound means? It's another episode of the Game for a Movie podcast where we ask, are you game for a movie? My name is Mike. I will be your host this evening. We are talking about, I want to say, a decently well-known movie, but more so because the original is well-known and because there's a reboot out there. I don't think many people know about this one, which was a sequel at the time. But of course, first, we're going to talk about what are we drinking. Today, I've got an all-day IPA from Founders. It is a nice, easy drink on a day like today. It is a Saturday, so I'm enjoying the most of it before I have to go do stuff with the rest of my day. But yeah, it's 4%, not too bad, easy enough to drink, and yeah, it's a good choice whenever you're just enjoying a nice Saturday afternoon. A couple of the normal housekeeping stuff. We have about 2 more episodes, this one and then another one on Russell Crowe that are happening, and then we kick off spooky season. As always with spooky season, I try to release as many as I can. I try for 4. We'll see if I get to that, especially because we will have a newborn at that point in time. I'm trying to crank out as much as I can before that happens so that at least I have a little bit of time before the baby is here and I can edit it while also doing dadly duties and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to try to get as many as I can out for spooky season. I'm looking for some of the worst horror movies you've got. Last year was specifically good because we got, I think, 3 out. One was Friday the 13th. Jason Takes Manhattan. We did The Haunting from 1999. We got Urban Legends. Bloody Mary. We had a bunch of good ones last year, and so I want to keep in that theme. We want the worst of the worst horror movies you've got so that we can release as many episodes, as much spoopy as possible. Speaking of spoopy and spooky, this one I don't consider that spooky. It's got a little bit of a black magic dark twist to it and this kind of thing. But the bad movie that we are going to cover today is The Crow, Wicked Prayer. If you've seen The Crow, I knew there was a sequel. I didn't know there was 3 sequels, and this is the 3rd sequel. This is the 4th movie in the Crow series. Obviously, they just rebooted it to mixed reviews with good old what's his name? Why can't I think of his name? I can think of his face and his cross eye. Bill Skarsgård. There it is. I knew it would come to me eventually. But yes, they rebooted it with Bill Skarsgård. I've just heard mediocre things, and I definitely heard that nobody went and saw this thing in the theaters. It's almost close to already being released on digital. That's how bad this movie was. But this is The Crow, Wicked Prayer, which is the 4th Crow movie, the 3rd sequel. And we've got some big names in this one, actually. So that is part of the reason why I chose it. We have people like Tito Ortiz, Tara Reid, David, I'm never going to say his last name correctly, Boreanaz, who is Angel from the Buffy series and also in Bones, that guy. Edward Furlong, Danny Trejo, Emmanuel Creekquy. I know I butchered that one as well. I'm trying not to, but it just happens sometimes. And my personal favorite, Dennis Hopper was in this. And let me tell you right now, we're going to have a long conversation about Dennis Hopper when we get to the end of this movie. But of course, I got to tell you about all of the stuff that happens first. Again, I'm going to butcher the hell out of these names because I can never read names. But I'll try my best. That's what I'll give you on this. And we'll see what happens. All right, so the first thing that caught me off guard when starting this movie is during the opening credits, it said Fubu Films. Yes, like the fashion designers for us, by us, Fubu. This is not related to them. In fact, the only movie that Fubu Films produced was this movie. And now, for us, by us, Fubu, the clothes designer, is branching out into films themselves. That was just announced in June of 2024. So, this is not related. It is not quite the same. This is from 2005, this movie, and it is the only film that Fubu Films has marked as one of their films. So we open to a polluted mining town that is being shut down for a new resort casino. We get this in exposition text. The problem is the exposition text is the exact same as the cast text that was in the opening credits. So at first, I actually had to rewind because I didn't realize it was telling me exposition instead of just naming names for who's in this movie. During the exposition, we get introduced to Pestilence, Famine, and War. Pestilence is played by Yuji Okamoto. War is Marcus Chong. And Famine is played by Tito Ortiz. Truthfully, these guys are just the underlings. They're the ones that are part of the gang, but they're not really like the big names that we care about in this. This is basically, especially when we get later in the film, this is your cannon fodder. These are the guys you kind of have a name to. It gets a bigger deal when they get taken out versus just like regular Joe Schmo guys. These actually have like a name and a feature to them. But yes, they are the four horsemen of the apocalypse: Pestilence, Famine, and War. Pestilence kicks a toxic waste barrel to get it spewing, like full roadhouse kick, like a roundhouse kick, roadhouse style. Famine, he had a truck that is poisoning the miners that were eating at the food truck. And War basically just straight fires a shotgun at the waste to catch it on fire and take out some of these miners. We don't exactly know why they're against the mine. Like, we never really truly learned that, except for they just had a bunch of people in a row and wanted to take them out. This basically starts an all-out riot at the mine, and at the same time, we've got Tara Reid off in the corner. She has a sniper rifle, and she fires at this police car that's obviously transferring a prisoner. The prisoner ends up being David, I'm not going to say his name right, guy from Bones, Angel, David Guy. He is Death, the Satanic Club leader, and we also know that basically Tara Reid and him are in love with each other. Tara Reid's character, just to make it easier, is Lola Byrne. Tara Reid's character, her name is Lola Byrne. She is in love with Death, who's also, his real name is Luke Crash. We do learn that. Luke Crash. Yes, that is his real name. It's an interesting name. He goes by Death for the most part, and they're in love with each other. They psychologically torture a priest to prove that they mean business, and we learn that tonight, Death and Lola are getting married. This takes us to our main character, Jimmy Cuervo. Jimmy Cuervo is played by Edward Furlong. If you don't know who Edward Furlong is, you may recognize that name. He is John Connors in T2 Terminator. That's basically all else I can say about him. Like, he hasn't done a whole lot of other things. He's been around, but just kind of always his background. This is his real first, like, starring role. And he wakes up in an obvious, like, bender stupor, and he's in his trailer, and he has a scorpion on him. This actually becomes a big deal because he just, like, grabs the scorpion and is able to catch it and takes it with him for wherever he's going next. There's a part, so I'm going to use language that I don't mean to be offensive or anything like that. I'm just going to use the language they use in the movie. This is not truly me talking. This is just what is in the movie. So painted on his trailer is the words engine lover, and lover is crossed off, and then murderer is written underneath it in graffiti. That is our intro to Jimmy Cuervo, and then it goes to Emmanuel Crequi, who, her name is Lily. She is making a speech. She is part of the Indian tribe that is there, and she is also the Indian shaman. She's making a speech about how the crow takes a person's soul to the afterlife. It's getting ready for the Raven Fest they do every year. That also confuses the hell out of me because they do say crow, raven, like intersperse. So when they say Raven Fest, really they mean kind of Crow Fest, but also they're just talking about the idea that the crow takes a person's soul to the afterlife. That's the big thing. At this point, it has been like 15 minutes in the movie, and they still have credits going. I guess they stopped because of the exposition and everything like that, but they do have credits going. Jimmy and Lily are together. They are a couple. They're very much in love. We learn later in the movie that they've been together for a long time. Really didn't know that before, but we learned that later on. And we also learn that Jimmy is off parole at midnight, and he makes a promise to Lily that he is going to be better, and he kisses her. in public, which is a big no-no. This is something that was looked at because he is an Indian murderer. And we don't get the whole story about how he's an Indian murderer and everything like that. Indian murderer, I'm going to say, because this is not the language anymore. We don't get how he's an Indian murderer. We don't know that until later in the film because, they obviously have to for a difference of opinion and everything like that. But this pisses off Harold. Harold is Danny Trejo. He's one of the leaders of the tribe. And also Tanner, which is Lily's brother. And they're both the children of Harold, Danny Trejo. So he kind of scares Jimmy off, but Jimmy says to Lily that he's going to, as soon as midnight hits, he is going to find her. They're going to get together and run away or do whatever because now he'll be off parole. He doesn't need to be in the same spot anymore. And especially because he's looking for a new start because everybody in the town knows who he is and the fact that he has killed some Indian person. So then it goes to midnight. Or just about before midnight, he has flowers, he's dressed up, he's very excited to see Lily and get their new lives together started. He has a shitbox car, which proves that he is down on his luck, and the shitbox car kind of like crashes out on him, so he rides a bike into town. And as he's riding his bike into town, we learn about the different sides of the town. There's the Indian land, and then there's the white land. And basically, you just don't cross it, apparently. There's a difference of don't cross this land because we're different people kind of thing. Tanner is police, we learn, and he runs into Jimmy and runs his bike off the road. He also warns Jimmy to not go near Lily and to just leave town. And for no reason, he just decides to play Russian roulette with an unarmed Jimmy to like try to scare him. But Jimmy obviously is like, do it because I saw the bullet slip into your sleeve, and Tanner's embarrassed. Well, Tanner takes his embarrassment and walks away with like his tail between his legs. And Jimmy picks up his bike, continues to go and get to Lily. Now he's a little late because he was run into by Tanner and everything like that. So it's not quite midnight anymore. It's now like 12:15. If you know anything about the Crow movies, and you may not, but if you do, they all have some kind of tragedy that beholds the hero, and he's kind of stuck somewhere between like life and death. Obviously, this is the part where it's going to happen. So he gets into the shop she runs. She runs like a kitschy shop as well as being the shaman of the Indian tribe that is there. And to his surprise, Lily's not there waiting for him. And he's kind of like looking around. And then all of a sudden, he sees these guys with masks. It's war, pestilence, and then we get Death, Lola, and Famine all come from the back room, including dragging Lily. Lily is tied up. She has her mouth shut. And Jimmy is beside himself, and he wants to fight all of them. But Luke/Death is able to grab him and take care of him easily. He's able to tie him up, and he's also able to put a noose around his neck and put a stool under him, so he's now about to be hung. We learn that for some reason, they need Lily's eyes. They need the eyes of a shaman. And so not only do they stab Lily in front of Jimmy, they also take her eyes. And this gives us a flashback, which is at the weirdest time because all of this stuff is happening and we're just going to take a random flashback. But it's to show that Luke and Jimmy are friends. They have history and they both kind of like lusted over Lily, but Lily liked Jimmy more. When you look at these two, I am very certain in my masculinity and my attraction to women and everything like that. But if there's an attractive guy, I will admit when there's an attractive guy. Luke is definitely the better looking than Jimmy. I have no clue why she would have chosen Jimmy in the first place. I'm sorry, but it's literally Hercules versus like a worm. It's not even close. But for whatever reason, Lily likes Jimmy, and that's fine. It then flashes back to the future, and Lola is holding an obvious fake eye. And it's supposed to be the eyes of a shaman. And she does this weird ritual and just like starts saying these words and then closes her eyes and opens them. And they're blue now. And they happen to be the eyes of Lily. And they talk about, with no eyes, that Lily will be lost in the spirit world forever because she's not going to be able to see. Obviously, Jimmy is really hurt, and he is yelling at them and screaming at them and everything like that. He is just beside himself. They killed Lily, and they took her eyes, and like it's a big thing about the spirit world and everything like that, and she's going to be lost forever. And Luke is just kind of tired of it. So he does one fell knife swoop while he's hanging there, by the way. You could have just, pushed the stool or whatever, but he does a knife swoop, and Jimmy is dead. And Death has his heart. And this is a big deal because they killed a loved one or something like that. And the blood that falls out of Jimmy falls in the pattern of a heart. It's symbolism. It's nice. It would be a little nicer if it wasn't because he's dead, but symbolism. Because of the ritual, this is when we learn that Luke wants to become the devil, or he wants to become Satan, I guess, or bring Satan to the world. And because of this thing that they did, he all of a sudden gets 666 branded on him after. And not like, oh, they branded him. No, it like just starts appearing on him. So we know they're doing this ritual to kind of bring Satan back. It had nothing to do with the mines, I don't think. It was just the fact that they could kill all these people just because they wanted to kill them. And they want to bring Satan to the living world. Death/Luke tells Famine and Pestilence to drag their bodies to the dump and get rid of them. Famine, when they're at the dump, sees an old freezer that his mother apparently used to lock him in. So he's like, this is perfect. Like, I can get my revenge. So he puts their bodies in the freezer, pushes it off the top of the dump into this water that's not really water. It's some kind of something that catches on fire. And the reason I bring that up is because it seems like every single liquid that they have so far catches on fire. It looks like it's supposed to be water. I think it is supposed to be water, but for whatever reason, they push the freezer into the water, and then Pestilence throws his cigarette at it, and it catches fire. So there we go. End of movie. Jimmy's dead. Lily's dead. I mean, they technically could keep the movie going and bring Satan, but, Jimmy's dead. So our main character's gone. But that's not how Crow movies work. And also, we learn that because Lily was a shaman, Lo now gets these visions, and she can see kind of the future and everything like that. It's not important right now, these visions. It'll come across later, but basically, the thing we think we see, and who knows, because no offense to Tara Reid, but she's not the best actress, and she could be totally trying to think something else, but it shows on her face differently. I think what I read about it was that she sees something about the future and Luke, and she's now a little nervous about, hey, what did I get myself into? That's not what it deals with right then. It just goes to the next scene where Jimmy is now in the spirit world, and he sees a crow that leads him towards the tree that they carved their names into. And swinging on the tree in a swing is Lily, but she has no eyes. And it's like a jump scare moment that's not really scary. And then Jimmy emerges from the freezer alive. And it's just like, I'm alive. And the water was actually toxic waste. We learned that now because of the skull and crossbones on the drums of liquid. I just wanted to prove that because I thought it was just water and it was catching on fire, but it's actually toxic waste. So, they actually did okay with that, I guess. Jimmy sees the last moments of their deaths again, about when he goes to the trading store, and there are lines. So he sees this whole scene again in his head, and we get to see it because of the audience and everything like that. There were lines that were said that weren't even part of the scene. Like in the flashback, he sees a completely different scene with different lines that were said. And I'm just going, I'm sorry, what? Huh? He takes Lily back to the trading store because he wants to give her like a proper burial and everything. And, well, really, he wants to give her a proper burial, but he also doesn't want to live without her, and he knows that he can find a gun there. And so he shoots himself, but he doesn't die, and he just sits there asking in the mirror, what am I? This is when he decides that, okay, he can't die. Maybe he'll just start getting revenge or something like that. He goes to his trailer, and because he apparently doesn't need a place to live anymore, he just sets the trailer on fire. And he does his makeup, like, so he puts this makeup on him to kind of like embody the idea of the Crow better. There's no reason for it. He can just be Jimmy. But because for whatever reason he thinks he's a superhero now, he does like makeup that he did in the way Lily did for his first Ravenfest. Remember back in the days when like Green Day first started out and they wanted to appear a little more like pop punk and everything like that? And you know, it's kind of like Billy Joe Armstrong was a little more like paler with the makeup and everything and that kind of thing. This is essentially what he goes for. And it's not scary. It's not like good. It's just the way he looks in this. And it's just kind of, I don't know, it's goofy the entire time. He draws like inverted crosses under his eyes, but it's just done with like an eyeliner pencil that's just so thin that you can barely see it half the time. So yeah, that's what he looks like now. And as he's walking away from the flames of the trailer, a crow lands on his shoulder. Like an actual crow, not like the Crow superhero. I gotta differentiate that because there are some parts that get a little confusing with the real Crow versus the superhero Crow. So I'll say like the animal Crow versus hero Crow. Those are the words I'm going to use to describe the differences. So he's leaving his trailer, and Tanner finds Lily's body, and he knows that Jimmy did it. Jimmy showed up, and he's just like, he's making him pay. That's what he thought. So he is beside himself because his sister's dead, but he knows he needs to get the group together to go find Jimmy. At the same time as all of this, the gang has gotten to their hideout, essentially, and they're just going to do a bunch of drugs and celebrate and everything like that. And Lola is like viciously rubbing her hands in the sink, like trying to get rid of the blood from Lily that, you know, she killed and everything like that. And the issue is she keeps seeing the blood. Like, even no matter how hard she scrubs, it keeps staying there, even though there's nothing there. And Death's able to talk to her and just be like, you're okay. We're all good. Like, everything's fine. And trying to get them to kind of party it up because there's going to be a wedding later. And they need to do more preparation before they can actually go through with the wedding. After the celebration and everything, they move out and they go to find their first real victim. Their first real victim is this guy, Moses. Moses has history with Luke. Everybody in this town seems to have history with one another. They all know who each other is and everything like that. Moses has turned his life around, and he's now a preacher. And apparently not only a preacher, or apparently not only does he know Luke, he apparently killed Luke's father. Death gives him like a super tough decision. So Moses is now married, and his wife is in the other room and doesn't know what's happening. And mind you, they're actually like performing a wedding right now. I do not know what time it is at this point, but it supposedly all takes place over like 1-2 nights. So it's got to be like 3 a.m. at this point, and they're doing a wedding in the middle of this place. The lights are all kind of screwy because sometimes it's dark, sometimes it's light, sometimes they're at a bar, sometimes they're not. It's the weirdest thing. I don't know exactly what time it is ever during this movie. Well, so Moses' wife is in the other room, and he sends Famine, Death sends Famine to go basically torture her. And at first you just hear like some stuff break and a gunshot, and you hear nothing else. And Death threw a gun at Moses' feet, and he's just like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not part of that life anymore. I don't kill anymore. I don't do this. I don't do this. I don't do this. Well, the gunshot going off was enough that he grabbed the gun. Death turns around and was like, I knew you were a killer, turns around and shoots him dead. So Moses is dead. The wife is actually still alive. And Death, to prove that he means business, he lets War shoot the other witnesses. The only one left alive is Moses' wife. And basically to live in a world where he's gone and to leave her to suffer. And the only reason he's doing that is because Moses left Luke in the world after killing his father. So it's kind of like a reverse punishment for Moses' wife. While this is happening, Lola is starting to feel bad. And she's starting to question everything because she knew that he wanted revenge on Moses, and that was fine. That was what it was, you know. But when he let War shoot the witnesses, that's when she was like, "What? No, we don't kill people like this." So again, that's what I'm reading into it. It's Tara Reid, so we never know. And it's not like she's the worst actress in this film. There's a lot worse in this film, but it's just one of those things where she also is not the best at conveying certain things. Pestilence does not actually go to the area Moses was at. He was not there. He was busy trying to score some more peyote at a bar. And he's alone, and all of a sudden, a crow lands near his foot and starts like pecking towards his foot and everything like that. So guess who's here? Jimmy! He's alive! He grabs Pestilence and goes, "Where's Luke? He owes me 2 lifetimes and a perfect set of blue eyes." And it's such a terrible hammy read. That's exactly why I included it, because it's just so bad. It's so awful. Just some of these lines are cheap as hell and everything like that. I remember, so I don't remember exactly when this happened, but when they went to Moses' thing, somebody goes, "Who are you?" And he goes, "I'll tell you for $47.66. I have no context for this line. I have no clue what happened. And I screwed up that I didn't include a note on it. But yeah, so some of these lines are just absolutely horrible. So he owes me 2 lifetimes and a perfect set of blue eyes. A slow motion fight scene occurs. And it's all in Jimmy's favor. Pestilence didn't stand a chance, you know, and there's a bug zapper in the middle of the room to kill some of the bugs. And Jimmy the Crow grabs Pestilence's head and pushes it against the bug zapper, killing him. There we go. 1 down. We got 1 of the group of 5 down. So Jimmy gets out of the bar, and the next time we see him, so there's like a joke about the hearse driver. The hearse driver is driving Lily's body to be buried or to at least be taken to the funeral home and everything like that. Jimmy commandeers the hearse and leaves the hearse driver basically stranded to walk home. And he takes her body to the tree that they put their names into, and he buries her under it. This is the like final goodbye and everything like that. Danny Trejo, Harold, wants to show that their kind of justice on Jimmy, the engine killer. So essentially they get everybody together, and they've come up with basically mob mentality. They're going to hunt down, as the Indian tribe, they're going to hunt down Jimmy, because they're all so certain that Jimmy is the one who killed Lily. After Jimmy the Crow buries Lily, he goes to the place where Moses was, and our gang goes to Ravenfest. So we've gotten to Ravenfest. I'm going to take a quick break to give a shout out and play the on-air promotion of our friends Doom Generation podcast. They were the first ones to guess it correctly that we were talking about the Crow Wicked Prayer. They are found at Doom Gen Pod on X. You can find them Doom Generation. Let the Dames of Doom take you on a hilarious and raunchy journey through the movies that doomed them. We love these guys. They absolutely have some of the best photoshopped like promotions for the episodes they're covering and everything like that. They put themselves into movie posters and everything. It's great. We absolutely love these guys. Doom Generation, here is their advertisement, and you can give a listen to them at any point, but mostly especially after you finish listening to this episode, of course. Here's their promotion. Enjoy Doom Generation podcast.
What was that laugh? I asked myself. I'm trying to recreate that as much as possible. I don't think I've ever laughed like that in my life. That was new. What is that? This is my new laugh for 2024. New Year, new laugh.
We have a spanking new podcast for your ear holes called Doom Generation.
Available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Later, Doomers.
Definitely has me wanting to listen to their newest episodes. Yes, Doom Generation Podcast, they are great friends of ours. We love them dearly, and we are glad they were able to get this one correctly. So check them out at Doom Gen Pod on Twitter/X or wherever you find your podcasts. Especially do that. Subscribe, everything like that. All right, so we've built it up to this point now. So Jimmy is where Moses is. The gang is at Ravenfest, and our Indian tribe is hunting down Jimmy. Jimmy is comforting Moses' wife, and we finally get to see the flashback about why everyone calls Jimmy a killer. Essentially, when they were in high school, a football player was pretty much raping Lily. Definitely against her will, trying to get her clothes off, everything like that. And Jimmy, I don't remember exactly what happened. I think he just like hit him a little too hard and he died from that. I don't think it was anything else. And it was just one of those things where like he was protecting Lily, and essentially all he got was parole. He didn't spend a lot of time in jail or anything like that. He also was in high school, so he may have been underage, so may have gone to juvie or something. We have no clue. But that football player, it turns out it was Moses and his wife's son. So once she figures out who he is, she walks away and grabs a gun and holds it on Jimmy. And Jimmy's just like, you can't kill me. And even more so, I'm going to help you here. Because he finds that Moses has a pulse. And he is able to, with his crow powers, which they never explain, but somehow he's able to do it, bring Moses back to life. And so Moses' wife is essentially forgiving him because she now realizes he's not as bad as she thought he was. I don't know. I maybe not, but you still killed their son. Like, that's my thing, is you still did it. Like, you still killed them, even if you didn't mean to or anything like that. I know, yes, 2 wrongs don't make a right, though. He was trying to pressure Lily into something, but again, that shouldn't mean kill. Yes, you should protect her, and yes, it looks like an accident. However, you still did it, and 2 wrongs, again, don't make a right. So the only way now, she forgives him because he just helps Moses come back to life, I guess. Fine. It feels a little weird to me. It feels like, because she apparently had this grudge for forever, and now it's just forgotten because, oh, you were able to save my husband. Thank you. Cool. We're good. Then there's this fake ass crow sequence showing that he's flying. The crow, like the animal crow, is like flying across the sky and everything. He's on his way to Ravenfest because he finds out that's where they're going next. That's where Moses' wife told him they were going. So the fake ass crow goes first, and basically we go to Ravenfest where the gang is hanging out, and Luke and Lola are sitting at like a table, and they've been building up this Ravenfest. Like, they've been building it up. And it really, there's like 7 people there. It's like a bad junior high dance. Nobody's actually doing anything. They're just kind of like around and everything. And as they get in there, Famine starts putting on baseball equipment. Like, he's got knee pads and like a chest protector, and puts on a like mask and everything like that. And he grabs a bat, and he just starts going crazy, smashing everything. The issue is, some of these, he's wearing the catcher's mask, and sometimes he's not wearing any of the equipment he put on. Sometimes it's just him smashing, and sometimes he has like full gear on. And it is the weirdest thing because it literally is like every other shot almost is equipment, no equipment, equipment, no equipment. It just keeps switching back and forth. Well, before he's able to do any real damage, the bat is grabbed, and the crow is there, and they get into essentially a baseball bat duel where the crow is grabbing it and like hitting Famine and everything like that, and he ends up knocking him out. So Famine's knocked out. He's not killed at this point. At least we don't think so, but he really doesn't come back at any point. So yeah, he's knocked out, which gets Jimmy the Crow into a conversation with Death/Luke and Lola. And they're having this whole conversation. Then all of a sudden, Luke/Death throws an axe and hits the animal crow and like wounds him. So now Jimmy can feel pain again. And so Luke starts fighting with him, and he is just absolutely dominating. This is the point of the movie where it's becoming obvious, like, Jimmy would be overmatched if he didn't have these crow abilities. He's just absolutely getting just wasted. Also, War starts going to town shooting innocent people, including he tried to shoot a kid, which Lola saw in a vision, and Jimmy was able to like get the kid out of War's path. After he saves the kid and the gang's able to get away, the little kid's like, "Where's my daddy?" And the crow goes, "It's going to be okay." And it fades out on the scene. Just, yeah, he probably is definitely dead. I'm pretty sure we actually saw him die at the hand of War. And Jimmy's just, "It's going to be okay." No, it's not. That kid's dad is dead. He is gone. So let's not lie to the kid and make him feel like, oh, everything's going to be fine. My daddy's good and everything like that. The gang leaves Ravenfest. Then we go to the hearse driver who's walking along the street, and Tanner drives past him. And he pulls over and he's just like, he recognizes that's the hearse driver, and he goes, what the hell happened? And basically, Jimmy stole my hearse, stole the body, and now he's at Ravenfest. And Tanner's like, "Okay, I'm on it," and leaves the hearse driver still stranded and goes and drives to Ravenfest. He sees all the bloodshed, and he sees that Jimmy is still there. And basically, he holds him at gunpoint. But Jimmy, this is what he wants. He wants to die. He wants to be with Lily. He does not want to be on this mortal coil anymore. So while Tanner holds him at gunpoint, he grabs Tanner and is just kind of like, "Do it, but I need you to see what happened tonight." And all of a sudden, Tanner just goes in like this trance and can see everything that happened tonight. The death of Lily, the death of him, his resurrection, that this gang is doing all of this, everything like that. And Tanner now doesn't want to shoot Jimmy. He still doesn't trust him, but he doesn't want to shoot him anymore. And I don't know why Jimmy would do that if he just wanted to die. All of a sudden, you're just like, cool, like, hey, by the way, I do actually want to kind of live, so like, just see what I'm seeing and let me live. Okay? I think it's really partially because he knows that he's going to be the only one that can stand up to Luke. So I guess that's kind of the thought there. I don't exactly know. Again, this movie's not well just like talked about in the script and everything. There's not a good script to protect this. So basically, they're driving to the Inequity Church, is what it's called, the Church of Inequity. This is where they're going to have their wedding, and where Satan is finally going to come and take over Luke and be on the living realm. And so all they need before they can do this ceremony is they need to sacrifice a virgin. And wouldn't you know it, they're driving down the road, and of course they find the hearse driver. This poor guy, like, he's just a running gag at this point. So they grab the hearse driver and they drive to the Church of Inequity. And the Church of Inequity is really a whorehouse. It's not an actual church. It's run by a bunch of prostitutes and their pimp, El Nino. And the first prostitute to talk to them is Macy Gray. And she basically is kind of a little more upset with Lola that she returned. And we learn that Lola was essentially a prostitute before she became Luke's main squeeze and the eventual wife to the devil if their plan succeeds. So she takes him to the main pimp, and the main pimp is El Nino, and he is played by Dennis Hopper. This is the part, guys. This is the part that this movie broke me. Like, absolutely broke me. This is the worst performance I have seen in a movie ever. And it's not Dennis Hopper's fault. Oh, well, it kind of is that he agreed to do this. Literally, some of the things he says are just absolute insanity to me. absolute insanity. He calls people homie. He calls them shorties. He basically wears this fur coat. He refers to himself as El Nino in like the third person at least 6-7 times. He's saying OG, homeboy, shorty, these kind of things. It's just absolutely ridiculous. It's just awful. Anybody, I want to know what made Dennis Hopper take this role. Because anybody who would have read that character, I can't imagine them ever going, yeah, this is who I want to play. And especially somebody like Dennis Hopper. Like, he's an Easy Rider. He's in Blue Velvet. He's in Speed. He was in Waterworld. I mean, I know we joke about that movie and everything like that, but it's not like it was a bad idea to be in that show. Or that movie, I mean. Because everybody thought that was going to be the next big thing. It's not like this is crazy to take that. The Crow Wicked Prayer, however, is not Waterworld. It's not Speed. It's not Blue Velvet. You know, it's a crazy, crazy role to me for him to take. And I'm not saying like he's perfect or anything like that. He doesn't have like the best IMDb scores overall or anything like that. But just he's such a better actor. He's an Oscar-nominated actor. And he's a pimp in this movie saying homie, OG, like shorty, that kind of stuff. It's absolutely insane. It's the worst role I think I've ever seen. And for somebody like Dennis Hopper, it just makes no sense to me whatsoever. Well, so part of the thing we also get is a little backstory about Lola. Lola stole the book from El Nino, the book that gives her all of the like spells to like create the shaman's eyes in her eyes, everything like that. And so she has to give El Nino the book back so that he can do the marriage ceremony. And basically, he makes her kiss the book, which is just creepy. And it's absolute insanity, this part of the thing. And we also get that basically he was the one that forced Lola into this life of prostitution. We see a flashback where he made her do her first time and everything like that. Kind of creepy. And I know it's to make us feel a little bad for Lola, but she, as much as I say there's these moments where it seems like she's questioning it, she's starting to question it, everything like that, she never changes her mind. Like, she still goes about and does this. She still wants to marry Luke. She still does all of the things that he does and everything like that. So it's not like she ever changes her mind or anything. We're trying to feel bad for her, but at the same time, there's nothing to feel bad for. She's still the one that's doing this. She still doesn't, it's not like she has to go through with this. She could change her mind at any point. I mean, now she might be forced a little more, but she could change her mind and we could feel bad for her. While this is happening, Tanner is convincing the Indian tribe to attack the Inequity Church, and War is protecting the church. It's just him. And he's doing this by attaching dynamite to his body. So a whole Indian tribe and Jimmy the Crow versus one guy who attached dynamite to his chest that may blow himself up. I wonder how this is going to go. But I will say one of the things that is in his favor, now that the actual animal crow is hurt, Jimmy isn't invincible, and he doesn't have as strong a connection to his powers. War is able to get the drop on Jimmy, but Tanner takes the shot and knocks War down. They go through the whole ceremony, and it's literally like, dearly beloved shorties, let's bring Satan up to the real world. Do you, Satan, take this shorty to be your OG, your homeboy, your whatever? It's literally like that. That is the ceremony and everything that he's doing. Bloodlust, anger, and some other deep, heavy shit that we're going through on this world. It was also at this moment that we learned that Luke's name is spelled L-U-C, and it's definitely supposed to be a play on Lucifer, because Lucifer is supposed to get up here and everything like that. And Bone/Angel guy, he becomes Lucifer. He becomes the devil. He definitely has like this power now. Like, he's a lot stronger. So when Jimmy's able to get into the church, he's able to get the jump on Jimmy and tie him up to the cross. The Indian tribe is shooting at the church, trying to kill Luke and Lola as they just walk out past them and get to the hearse. They're driving to the burial grounds to consummate the marriage. And I'll also say at this point, at least this guy who played Luke was having fun. Like, it is ridiculous. It is basically, he hammed up this role, and Dennis Hopper said, "Hold my beer," but he still hammed up this role and made it as crazy as possible to be the devil, or this guy that wants to be the devil and everything. So he's able to escape with Lola. They're going to the burial grounds. They're going to consummate the marriage. The Indian gang, basically, they help Jimmy get off the cross, and he realizes that he doesn't stand a chance unless his crow is like healed. So they do a crow dance to save the animal crow. This includes Danny Trejo taking off his shirt and like slow motion boobs bouncing. Like, it was insane, this whole thing. This whole last half of the movie, the entire writer's room must have been on like crack or something like that, because the beginning's not great either. Don't get me wrong on this. It's not like I'm defending the beginning of this movie, but the end just devolves so horribly into just this slapstick of a crow movie. It's like goofy in all of the wrong ways and everything. But the crow is fixed, and he does another fake-ass crow, like CGI flight, and Jimmy is getting his way to the burial grounds, where Luke has taken off his pants, and he wears tighty whities, and he is pretend fucking Lola. It's not very good. Lola also knows that you need to look him in the eyes while doing that. And the crow starts like fighting with Luke. So like Jimmy starts fighting with Luke. So Luke kind of has like a little bit of an edge, but it's pretty fair at this point. So Lola's trying to find any spell to help. And then all of a sudden the crow, the animal, lands on a cactus, and Jimmy gets all of his powers back, pretty much everything. And he's able to just take control of the fight. And including this last line before he's almost going to knock out Luke. Quoth the raven, "Nevermore, motherfucker." Which, again, it's a crow, not a raven. What are we doing? We're not, like, do we know what a raven and a crow are? I know they're very similar, but they're not the exact same thing. Like, I don't think a raven is part of the crow family. I'm not like an expert in animal entomology or any whatever it is. I'm not an expert on that. I don't think a raven is a crow. So saying the line, "Quoth the raven, nevermore, motherfucker," I think they just screwed up on this one. I could be wrong, but I think they just screwed up on this one. So he knocks out Luke. The sun rises, and Lola's eyes revert back to her old eyes. They're no longer those piercing blue eyes or anything. Luke decides he can make one more desperate attempt to beat the crow, but he's able to flip him onto a rock pile, and this rock stabs him right through the heart. And then Jimmy, making sure that Luke can't be the devil, can't come back, slits his throat. So he gone. And so now the Indian tribe gets there, and Harold, Danny Trejo, almost shoots and kills Lola. Like, had the shot, but Tanner grabbed the gun and lifted it up so he could stop him and arrest Lola. Like, yes, Harold wanted that revenge. You killed my daughter, everything like that. But we also learn Tanner grew up a little bit, and he knows that the right action is justice, not killing her and having another murderer in the world kind of thing. Like, an eye for an eye makes the world go blind kind of thing. Tanner saves the day from Harold killing Lola, arrests her. Luke's dead. And in like a dream sequence at the end, they're at the tree, and Jimmy and Lily are reunited. Lily has her eyes back, and he puts a ring on her finger. They never say if this is real or not. Like, we don't know. Jimmy wanted to die, remember? And also because he's like save the day, does the crow go away? Does he lose his powers? What happens with that? Is this a real scene? Is this a fake scene? Is this a dream? We have no clue. It just gives us that happy ending for a second of this sequence where they're at the tree and he puts the ring on her finger, they kiss, and it's over. The crow wicked prayer, lovely, is done. So, let's talk analysis. I'm pretty sure this is the worst movie I've ever seen. I think this takes the cake. It was not good on every standpoint. The budget wasn't great, so I can give like bad CGI, that kind of thing. I can give it a forgiving pass on that. The script was terrible. The acting was hammy. You got Dennis Hopper to do one of the worst roles I've ever seen anybody do, let alone an Oscar-nominated actor like or Dennis Hopper. Edward Hopper. What? Edward Hopper. I don't know who that is. You got somebody like Dennis Hopper to do the worst role I've ever seen anybody do. The acting was hammy, terrible, just bad. And, I mean, I don't know what I expected from this cast. The guy who is, like, Angel on Buffy and plays in Bones, like, that guy, I guess, kind of can act, but he also is more of a TV guy versus, like, a movie guy. Edward Furlong probably wasn't the guy you wanted. War, pestilence, and famine were either high all the time or just causing chaos, so they were fine in that aspect, but really they had no point to this. Lola's played by Tara Reid. I've made my opinions about her known. Macy Gray was a prostitute for all of 5 seconds. Danny Trejo doesn't add anything to the movie except for just slow motion boob dancing to save a crow. I wish I never had to utter that sentence in my life, but you know, I did. It was a movie. Out of all the movies to ever movie, this was a movie. But this is quite possibly the worst one I have ever seen. It just all came together awfully. There's nothing about this movie that's redeeming. Even some of the lines that I wrote down that I laughed at, I don't think I'm supposed to laugh at. Quote the Raven, nevermore, motherfucker. Who are you? I'll tell you for $47.66. Where's Luke? He owes me 2 lifetimes and a perfect set of blue eyes. Like, these are just awful lines. And these are just the ones that I wrote down that I laughed at. There's probably a ton more. There's a whole speech by Dennis Hopper that could be in this quote, like bad quotes section. Sometimes when I put myself through these movies, there's redeeming qualities. There's something you can find. Usually, I definitely like to look at the bright side and say, there's something positive I could put and say, oh, that was positive. I can't think of one. I can't think of a single thing in this movie that was a positive thing. The entire movie was just terrible and shouldn't exist, in my opinion, truthfully. I don't think The Crow needed a sequel, let alone 3. And then a reboot doesn't make sense to me either. But, you know, I'm not even talking about that at this point. Normally, somebody like Mitchell would give it to Mitchell Zero. Like, hey, you put together a movie and you did it. You got a movie. I can't even give it the Mitchell Zero, the half star, the whatever. I can't do it. I can't. I want to just because I know how hard it is to make a movie. I know how hard it is to get everything together, to coincide, to make a movie, get it to screen, everything like that. This movie feels like the line from Billy Madison. I award you no points and may God have mercy on your soul. So I'm going to give it a 0 crows out of 5. I know that's the easy one I could go with. I could do 0 shaman eyes out of 5. Just gets a 0. Just a straight 0. There was nothing redeeming about this movie. There's nothing I can find a positive about. And truthfully, this is the first time I've ever felt like I wasted my time. Usually with the bad movies, yes, you can feel like some moments, okay, I wasted like 20 minutes of my time, that kind of thing. I find it kind of funny usually because I do like watching bad movies. But this is the first time I'm like, the entire runtime, I have wasted my time. Yeah, I'm being harsh on this movie, but it's just, I want to save you. If you're listening to this and you have not seen this movie, I am saving you. Do not watch this movie. There's plenty of movies that I've seen that I would suggest to watch instead of this movie that you may feel like you've wasted a little bit of time on, but not your entire time. And this movie was so bad, not only did it feel like it wasted the hour and a half that I watched this movie, it feels really like I lost 2.5 hours because now I have to talk about it again in length. So, yeah. That's The Crow Wicked Prayer. I don't want to keep shitting on it, but at the same time, I feel like I need to because, again, I'm warning you. Do not watch this movie. Don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. There's no reason to watch this movie. There's no reason at all. I want to 100% save you from yourself. And some of you may say, oh, he's challenging me to watch this. I'm not. I'm not challenging you right now. I am telling you, because I have watched it and I want to help you, that you should not watch this film. Nobody should put themselves through this film. I did it for you because I love you guys. And because you deserve it, I put myself through it. I'm not going to watch any of the other Crow sequels. I'm not going to watch the reboot. If anything, I might watch the original again. But even that, it was a fine movie. There's nothing wrong with The Crow 1. You can enjoy it, have a good time, everything like that. R.I.P. Brandon Lee. Like, I think he did a great job and brought this character a little more life. And apparently too good of life, because this is like the fourth life he's had now. And this time he probably should have just stayed dead. So, not Brandon Lee, obviously, but the Crow character. I'm sorry, that came out really wrong. I'm not talking about Brandon Lee in that case. R.I.P. Brandon Lee. That's not what I'm talking about. He did well. He ran so that Edward Furlong could trip over his own feet and hopefully hang himself because, well, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Hey, there should be no more Crow movies. That's what I'm saying. So, yeah, that's The Crow Wicked Prayer. If you have thoughts about this movie, please reach out to us at Game for a Movie pretty much everywhere. We're on X, we're on Threads, we're on Facebook. Even though I don't have access to that anymore, at least Jill can still see that stuff. And yeah, we're going to start doing spooky season stuff. I've got another episode that is going to hit about the beginning of October, end of September, and then we're full send spooky season. The next episode is 2 bad Russell Crowe movies back to back. I saw The Exorcism in theaters, as well as I watched Poker Face. And it was kind of an accident that I'm doing 2, but it just so happened to work out that, hey, Russell Crowe, 2 bad movies in a row. So the Crow continues, I guess. The discussion of Crows. Russell Crowe double feature going to be at the end of the month, beginning of October, and then we're in spoopy season. So send me what you think are the worst horror movies of all time. Just tweet it at us or post it at us, put it on our Instagram. I don't care. Just tell me what you guys think. I'll be sure to try to watch it because I'm getting my own list together and I have some, I'll say bangers, but not really bangers. Yeah, so we've got some stuff coming for you. We're going to try to get some friends on this too, so you're not just hearing my voice again because I know it can be annoying sometimes to just listen to me. But I'm still happy to watch these bad movies for you so you don't have to and can hopefully save you time, effort, energy, and just not watch movies like The Crow Wicked Prayer. So yeah, we'll see you for another Crow episode, Russell Crowe, double bad movies, at the end of the month / beginning of October. We're getting the spoopy season, and I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you to Doom Generation Podcast for guessing it correctly. You guys are awesome. We love you. And thank you guys for always tuning in. I really appreciate it. So for Game for a Movie, where we ask, are you game for a movie? I am Mike. I will see you next time for another Crow episode. Bye.